Okay, hello again. I want to thank you for Sorry, just things happen around here, and I have startled response because of my CPTSD. So anyway, moving on. I wanted to show you the fun part of this mass make process, and I wanted to show you I'm not even done with the collaging of all of the 12 by 12s yet because it just gets to be so much. It's too overwhelming for one video. But I wanted to show you I had done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and it took the better part of the morning, you guys. I'm not gonna lie. So it is a time-consuming process, but you could, if you didn't have, feeding animals and making video interruptions, and you got into a really good workflow, you could probably get it done in couple 3 hours, depending on how quickly you do stuff. So what I wanted to show you was the fun part was, and you notice the cutter here. I've got the 12 by 12 cutter, and this is the fun part that I like to do. So because I'm always kind of I wouldn't say rigid in my crafting, obviously, because you saw my scrap mess earlier. I'm more perfectionist. Like when I lay stuff out, it's gotta all be, and that's fine for when you're laying out the initial 12 by 12 piece. But this is what I love to do because I get so ridiculously surprised at how much better things turn out when I'm not so attached to what the outcome looks like. So this is what I do. I take these 12 by 12s and I mix them all up, knowing that I know what they look like. I put them together so my mind knows which one is which, and, deep inside of my creative soul. That sounds ridiculous, I know, but so what I like to do is then, and it's easier with the different size, is I'll set the stack over here and just take it one by one, is I take this side of it and and my cutter's gone, the blade is gone on this particular cutter. I should have gotten my new one out, but I just, it's so funny because I'm not, first of all, I don't really buy new clothes very often because I just don't, it's such a waste. I don't know why. It's just, to me, anyway, I get it. It's just not my thing. I buy crafts and music supplies, and, I buy stuff that, stuff for my hobbies and my kids. And so anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that what point was I trying to make? I haven't taken out my new cutter. See, that's where I don't like this cutter, which is me, is that if I'm not paying attention, I will go out of the groove and I'll make a crooked tag like that, which I can trim it up later. I'm pretty good at cutting a straight line, unlike most people. But again, I just like to get surprised at what the tags end up looking like. You just put it in on the white side, and you keep your fingers out of the way, of course, which that's probably why most people wouldn't really want to do it this way, is because you obviously risk, it's much more risky and dangerous to cut like this. But it's not like I'm that girl that buys new clothes and leaves it in the, and has the tags still on them in the closet. But I do have a couple of craft supplies like that, just because it's not like it's a waste not, want not type of thing, This one works perfectly good. And I find that sometimes it's actually more, I don't know, it's a little more zen for me to have to pay attention. I'm sorry if I'm wiggling the camera, you guys. I mean, it's funny because I aspire to be a filmmaker. I'm an old dog from Hollywood. And so, anyway, in front of in small parts and behind in low budgets, for years on and off. And so I know a lot about different things, and I have written my own scripts and I want to make my own movies and my own little things. And I'm so terrible on these videos. They're not edited. There's no good sound or music to them or anything. And this from a person who's actually had songs on national television. I didn't produce them. I co-wrote them or wrote them, but I didn't, record the music and do all the mixing and mastering and stuff. I can't do those things. So I just find it kind of funny that, I know how to make films because I worked on, when you work on low budget sets, as you may have heard me mention in another video, when you work on low budget sets, you do everything. Your boom, mic, gaffer, first AD, second AD, whatever position needs to be filled. Of course, in certain cases like second AD and probably first AD too, but in certain, you can't just easily become a second AD or a first AD on a SAG set, which is the Screen Actors Guild. That's the official, agency or union, I should say, that, unionizes all of the big budget projects in Hollywood. And the reason why you can't be a second AD or a first AD on SAG affiliated projects is because if you don't have the experience or the training or either to watch the clock on set and make sure, and there are other things, but mainly watching the clock, because nothing blows the budget like not watching the clock on set. Because if you go 1 or 2 minutes over, before breaks or lunchtime, then you pay a lot of money. It's time and a half for everybody if you go over the time. And then not only that, it's a bookkeeping nightmare too, because it throws a wrench in the bookkeeper's well-oiled machine and getting the payday out. It's just a pain for everybody, and mostly it's a pain because you go over budget. So a lot of times what would happen on sets is that if you were the PA, the production assistant, for example, you excuse me, a lot of big budget productions, and you can be a PA on a big budget production if you're good enough. You don't have to, there's no laws you're going to break that's going to bust the budget or really mess up the production as a PA. So you can be a PA on big budget sets. But the problem with it is that you're a lowly position, right? You're basically the busboy of the set. If you are a PA, you don't have any training. They'll just pull you off the street. I did know someone in the industry, so that's how I got on big budget stuff, behind the camera. But if you on low budget, you can work your way up, because a lot of times what'll happen is the people who work on the high budget stuff, when they're on hiatus from their other stuff, they're picking up work in the low budget jobs where you are. So you'll meet people on those sets and stuff, and they'll bring you along. So that's kind of how I got my start in the industry in terms of being behind the camera on bigger budget stuff. So what the problem is, though, is that PA and second AD are just, second AD not so much, is a lowly position, but it is still Anyways, the point is if you're a PA, you're the busboy of the set. It's like the lowest of the low of the positions on the crew, right? And so, but the challenge is that when they're rolling, you have to secure your part of the set or the whole set if it's a small set. So say the producer's there, say the writer's there, or somebody who normally isn't on set. It's not that they don't know the rules, it's just that they forget the rules and stuff, okay? So, and when you're on a set where, say for example, it's not a sound stage. So on the sound stage, you lock the door when you're rolling and the light's on the outside. So nobody comes in or out while you're rolling on a sound stage. So it's a lot easier to control the environment. But when you're on an outside set or you're the PA on the parameter like I was and you're securing the outside parameter and you're just outside, when the producer or the writer or somebody who's not normally on set is on set, they forget that they have to shut up while we're rolling. So you, as a lowly PA, you can't be afraid to go up to a producer or writer and just tap them on the shoulder and smile and do the little circle with your finger, like, we're rolling. You can't be intimidated to do that to these guys. Because here's the thing. Say you're second AD and you're afraid to approach the big-time director to tell him that it's lunchtime in 5 minutes. You're just intimidated by him because maybe he's on a rant or he's going, deep in the throes of... He doesn't know what time it is. So he's counting on you to interrupt him at the appropriate time. And it is a good timing thing. You kind of can get in trouble if you don't do it at the right time. You can't do it unless it's, like 10, 9, 8, then you can. But if you got 5 minutes or whatever, you got to pick your good spot in the next 5 minutes to tell the director, hey, we got to wrap for break or lunch or whatever. And so if you're afraid to go up to the producer or the writer and tell them that, hey, with a smile, you got to be quiet, we're rolling. Or just, you can't even whisper, because those high-powered cameras and mics and stuff, they pick up everything. They pick up stuff so far away, and when the sound guy's editing and he hears some whisper, it's just, he's got to take it out, and there'll be a little void in the sound because of the ambient sound where he's doing the sound mixing. It's just, it's just better not to have to deal with that stuff. So you just don't really say anything. You just, all you have to do, everybody knows this is rolling in the industry. So all you have to do is tap someone on the shoulder, smile, and go, and they go, oh, sorry. And they appreciate the fact that you have the guts to come up and say it, because for some reason people are afraid of these people. I'm just like, oh, it's ridiculous. Anyways, you see the ginormous amount of tags this makes, and I'm gonna cut, I'm gonna grab the scissors here and start cutting these in half, because I don't really want all of these long tags. I'd rather have a bunch of short ones, honestly, because I didn't do what I did with the other ones, which was make some wider. And when they're not wide and they're not on very sturdy paper, you can't really make them long because they're too floppy to slide in and out. And then you're ending up doing more work by having to put the extra backing on it or whatever. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just taking all of these and I'm cutting them in half from a long strip down to 2 small strips. And then we're going to turn them over and look at them, because it's really cool to see what they end up looking like when you don't go, oh, I'm going to cut it here so it looks like that. It's just so surprisingly beautiful. It kind of reminds me of how when you cut open a rock, sometimes on the outside it has barely any indication that there's anything cool going on the inside. But then when you slice it or slab it or cut it open, it's so amazing. You're just like, wow, I would never have guessed This isn't quite as fun as that, but it still does have its... So now look at the stack of tags I have, and I have another stack here that's so huge. Okay, so, but instead of do this whole thing, I'm just going to do this little stack right here, and we'll do a reserve, and I think I will cut and do a video of the other ones. Just put in a comment if you want to see the other stack done and revealed. But see, look at how cool these turn out. And what I highly recommend, if you're gonna mass make tags, this punch I have used this so much. And I know this is like a spendy punch. It could probably be a 25, and if you ship it from eBay or something, to be a $25, $30 punch by the time you're done. But what I end up doing is I decide how much I'm going to use it, and then average out the cost per use. So I have already, I think I paid $14 for this on eBay, and they shipped it for $5 or something. So for $20, I got this thing, and it seems spendy for a punch, but for how much I have already used this, because look at how cool this is. It has for a 1-inch size, a 2-inch, and a 2.5. Oh. So if you put it in, depending on how wide it is, it makes a different design. So look at how neat. Instant tag. And it's just so amazing because look at the difference of just the quality of how it looks with that, excuse me, that extra little punch out of it. And, excuse me again, and one of the reasons why you wouldn't use this, and I'm going to end up doing... Like on this one, I would use this. But I can't find an example, and when I come across it, I'll show it to you, where punching it is too many layers for this. And like over the doily here, if it had a doily like this that was glued over and then something else on the top too, where I couldn't put it in the punch, I would end up cutting the corners. You know how you cut one corner and then you put the match on the other side and you cut it so you get the exact same on both sides. But look at how cool, depending on how wide the tag is, how different each one looks a little bit at the top. And that's the other reason why I like this punch. And of course, I'm trying to get it exactly in the center. But I'll show you what happens when you have a piece of paper that's too wide. Is you punch it and then you get these little tabs on the end, which I didn't even it up. But when you even it up, then the tag, you just cut the little tabs off and it's even. And this isn't because I didn't have it in the middle, but that's what, it just makes instantly a beautiful professional looking tag, And I'm planning on selling these in journals, so I do want that extra added touch. And I also have another little, did I do it on these? Yeah, I did. So see this little corner right here? I also have this little corner punch that I did on the other tags, and I'll probably do them on all of them, because just that extra little added, you don't even really notice it. You don't notice it when it's done, but when it's not done and it's just square as opposed to has that little ornate decorative cutting on the edge, or on the corner rather, it just gives it that extra little something. So that's just me, because when I do stuff professionally, I like to have that extra little added touch of things. So let's go through the big reveal. That's all my thing on the punch now. And that's how I feel about every craft item. The Crop-A-Dile, my $300 wireless Echo ink tank printer, like $300 is a lot of money to spend on a printer. But I said, wow, how much am I going to be printing? You guys, it has been worth the price so much for how much I print for my crafting and my journals and stuff. That $300 printer has made it economically viable to actually do this as a business. So it was well worth the price. So let's do the big reveal without further ado. So look at how cool all of these end up when you just turn it around and you don't look at what you are creating, but you just cut it. And it is really interesting to see how all of this stuff turns out, to me, better than you could have ever figured it out to look for yourself. And look at, so you have this, and then you stick it in the punch, and you punch the top. Instant beautiful tag. Look at that. It looks like you bought it in the store, and I'm not even all that big on my own stuff. And see, then you get pieces like this where you have one little and the rest is blank. Well, that's fine, because you just stick it in and you punch it. And then when you go to decorate it, we're not done with these yet. I mean, these actually could be fine the way they are, but with some of them, like this and maybe this, I want to add a little extra texture or something to it. So you could leave these perfectly the way they are, but you don't have to, and I'm not going to, because again, the professional touch thing. But you could still, when you have big voids where you